the opportunity to answer to your question. Please silence your phones. We don't need to overly remind you of that.
Well, folks,
I hope the captions are all set. Go on the dot. We will pass the microphone over to Mr. Cummings while he will preside over this press conference.
Cummings. So be a part of it to listen to what the ANC political leader has to say.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yagba Jr. I'm the Director of Communications in the office of Mr. Cummings. I am inviting you here and welcome you to this press conference on Monday, September 13, 2021, at the headquarters of the Alternative National Congress. Today, press conference will be presided over by Mr. Benedict Cummings, and then after his statement, you have the opportunity to ask questions. So we'll now pass on to Mr. Cummings to preside over the press conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Moba. My fellow Liberians, I'm joined today by the leadership of the Alternative National Congress, some members of our legislative caucus, members of our executive committee, and we're here today to have a conversation with the Liberian people about change, about real change, and the need for us, all Liberians, to be committed to change our country for the benefit of every Liberian. I will read a statement as was suggested by Moba, and then we'll take a few of your questions. My fellow Liberians, in 2019, the CPP, which the ANC remains an integral part of, was officially formed to be a viable alternative to the CDC-led government. This is because since the election of this CDC-led government, our country has descended into freefall. Many of you do not need me to tell you that Liberia is in a really bad place. You are feeling it every day and everywhere in our country. The president does not know what he is doing. Most of the people he employed, like him, do also not know what they're doing. They are managing the economy very poorly. Every day is a new corruption scandal of government officials stealing while people cannot find jobs. The harmonized pay of civil servants cannot even pay the cost of their transportation to work, or pay their children's school fees, or put food on their tables for a month because food prices are so high. People are suffering. We need to create jobs. We need to grow the economy. We need to fix the schools and improve the hospitals. We need to stop the stealing, obey the laws, and hold each other accountable. This is what political leaders should be seriously talking about, because these are what are affecting Liberians and are at stake in 2023. Many of you have heard that I walked out of the meeting with my colleagues at Bella Casa Hotel and of my refusal to attend a program to endorse Ambassador Boycott as standard bearer of the Unity Party. While many have commended my stance on upholding the rules as well as the commitments to democratic tenets we share in the CPP, some have described it as fueling an internal crisis. I can only hope that this internal crisis, if it is one, will provide the CPP much needed space for reflection on how we better position ourselves to respond to the needs of our people for real change. It is not enough that we criticize the government, as we rightly should, but also that we continue to demonstrate that the CPP is a better alternative by holding ourselves to a higher standard of democratic leadership and accountability. The membership of the Alternative National Congress, the ANC, and my own participation in the CPP impose an obligation to help keep the CPP's action within the framework of its agreement. Of course, my preference is not to commit a wrong, but where it is brought to my attention with supporting evidence that I have participated in the commission of violations to the framework agreement by our decision to extend the tenure of the chair and constitute an investigative committee, it becomes my duty as a democratic leader to ensure the wrong is corrected and the illegal action reversed. A wrong is a wrong, regardless of who commits it, including myself. A wrong is a wrong, no matter who commits it, including myself. Recognizing and correcting a wrong is not a sign of weakness. It is an attribute of good leadership, and it is honorable. Doubling down on wrongs is dishonorable and a product of undemocratic leadership. Where there is insistence on not correcting our collective mistake, to continue to proceed wrongly in spite of clear violations of our laws, I will not be a part of it. We owe the Liberian people an obligation to do things differently, to be better than this government. If not, how are we the alternative? On the issue of the Unity Party, insofar as it risks undermining what we have agreed to collectively, the actions of a constituent member party cannot be said to be internal. When we agreed to act as one in the CPP, we also agreed to be publicly judged. The undemocratic action of one member party in violation of the core values and guiding principles of the CPP, its own constitution and net guidelines, casts a broader expression on the CPP and reflects wholly on all of us. Either we believe in what we agree to and stand for, or we don't. We simply cannot have it both ways. To change our country, we must choose, as hard as it sometimes will be, not to stand, even with friends, when we know they are wrong. I have made my choice, and it is to stand with anyone who is trying to stand right. I know I will have to stand alone sometimes, or anger some friends and allies by doing so. This too is a price I'm willing to pay for the change I believe we must make to make our country better. Fellow citizens, change must begin with us, with me, with you, with my friends in the ANC, in the CPP, with the leaders in government, with traditional community and religious leaders. Change is not about someone else. It is about each of us holding all of us more accountable. How can we be trusted to obey the laws of the country when we cannot obey the CPP framework agreement? Breaking laws have real consequences, just as real change is a deep commitment to be different. I have been criticized for not being on the Liberian political scene as long as some of my colleagues, and it is true. However, it is not about how long, but about how well. it is not about how long, but about how well. I'm by no means a perfect human being, as there are none. But I came to politics to try to make a real difference. I did not come to keep things as they are, or to join in keeping our country stagnant and immovable from its difficult past. I came believing politics is the way to make the future of Liberia brighter and better for all Liberians. Fellow Liberians, change is hard. Real change is even harder. It will not make everyone happy at the same time because some are too used to the old ways of doing things. Real change is giving the country a new chance to become better. Real change is not just saying the right things, but doing the right things in the right way. This is why I walked out. This is why I refuse to endorse a wrong. Liberia and Liberians are at stake. The CPP must do better. Liberia deserves better. Liberia deserves better. If CPP cannot be the change the Liberian people seek, then we do not deserve to lead them. This clash for change must not just be in the CPP. It must also happen all across our country and in all of our political parties, in our schools, our hospitals, churches, mosques, offices, and communities. Your lives depend on it. Those who desire change, those who know our country must change for the better, must confront and stand up to those resisting change and wanting things to selflessly remain the same. Those who want real change cannot stand down. You must not give in nor give up. You must be strong and be brave. You must walk out without walking away. Eventually, change will happen. Liberia needs to move forward. We need to build a new future for our children. Many of our neighboring countries are speeding ahead, changing their societies and their countries, while our nation is falling backwards. Leadership is not about clinging to the past. It is about moving to the future. Liberia is crying for us to do things differently. The living conditions are worsening for too many Liberians, and they do not need us to play the same old and discredited politics with their lives. Too many of our young people need new opportunities to better their conditions. Too many women are without equal opportunities and legal protections. Too many of our girls need hurdles removed from their paths to realizing the fullness of their God-given potential. Too many children need the chance to grow up to be better than their parents. Too many Liberians need to feel the empowerment in their citizenship and not continue to stand by and stand aside in their own country. And yes, no Liberian needs to die because our hospitals lack the basics to treat the illnesses, while the government officials embezzle public funds. This is really what this is all about. Real change versus another chance. Real change versus another chance. We must choose. I choose real change, even if it will cost me the opportunity to be president of this great nation. I urge each and every one of you to choose real change, even if it makes you uncomfortable, because the ultimate benefit will be a better country for all of us. We can change our country. We must change our country. And together, I'm confident that we will. If not us, Liberians, then who? If not now, then when? God bless you, and God bless our beloved country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You've listened to a splendid performance by our political leader. So now it's your turn to ask your questions. So you will call your name and the media institution you represent. We'll start with James Goodell Flomo, Spoon TV, Spoon FM.
Good morning. My name is James Goodell Flomo. I report for Spoon FM and TV. Mr. Cummings, Liberians are concerned when you talk about change, that you need to change everything, or we need to change it. Why are you a part of a collaboration that is not moving that path according to you? Because the Unity Party process was not perfect. So why you stay a part of this collaboration if you believe in change? And the next question is, where are we with the ANC regarding your walk away and the meeting before your walk away? It seems that you walk away according to a reason. You said there was no agenda for the last meeting. So where are we now? Where is the ANC position in this CPP?
So let me take them one at a time. But you have two questions. So I will answer your last question first because it's important, and I'm glad you asked that question, that Liberians hear this from me and from all the partisans of the ANC. We remain committed to the CPP. Let me repeat that, and let me try to be more emphatic. We remain committed to the CPP. We believe that collectively we can change the CPP and can change our country. We believe to change our country we have to be inclusive. Will it be easy? No. Will it be difficult? Yes. Will we stand alone sometimes? Yes. But we believe that together we can change this country, and we're committed to the CPP. I disagree that the CPP isn't changing. It's not changing fast enough. It's changing slowly, perhaps, and change again is difficult. But we, within the framework agreement, will make sure the CPP changes. That document actually represents change. It represents what we stand for. And so we will push each other. I'm sure my colleagues will push me and push back, but I will push them. And together we will change the CPP, and ultimately we will change Liberia. I often say, you know, if you think about a young baby, right? The baby gotta crawl first, then the baby walks before the baby runs. The baby just don't get up and then start running. And the CPP relationship is in its early days. Our democracy is in its early days. And we're in the crawling stage, but we're making progress. And I know Liberians are anxious to see us get to the running stage. I'm anxious too, but it will take time. So we're committed to the CPP. We're in there. We're going to push and pull each other. But in the end, I believe it's the right vehicle to replace the CDC-led government.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, and my name is Titus Emmanuel Dassi, and I represent Joy FM. Mr. Cummings, your chairman of the CPP, Madam Yombi Kanga Lawrence, at the Unity Party submission says Mr. Boata is the only official candidate for now when it comes to contesting the CPP ticket moving forward to 2023. I'm asking, she said, other constituent parties yet to submit their own desire of contesting the CPP ticket. is by any means the ANC contemplating on that to submit a document that will ultimately push us towards contesting the CPP ticket?
Yes, the ANC will be a contestant in the CPP process. We will be a contestant. And look, let me explain, if I may, what is happening, what has happened. So, as you all know, and I'm using this as an example, the National Elections Commission, prior to any election, publishes kind of the rules and guidelines for that election, right? The deadline for when candidates should be registered with the NEC, you know, when the election will be, if voter registration is supposed to take place, they announce the date, it starts on this, it ends on this. They publish rules and guidelines for the election process. Similarly, the CPP should be publishing rules and guidelines for the selection process. Those rules and guidelines have not been yet published. That is a fact. They have not been yet published. So it's difficult to say who has qualified and who has not when those deadlines have not been published. But to answer your question directly, we will be a candidate for the CPP nomination, and the ANC will follow its internal processes to make that happen, and we will register for the CPP nomination.
Okay, thank you, sir. So we'll go in our quadrant to...
Yeah, front page. Please pass the microphone.
Mr. Cummings, my name is Gerald, calling in and I write for Front Page Africa newspaper. You have been watched and listened to by a huge number of the population. As you alluded to in your statement, you walk out of the meeting and you refuse to attend the Unity Party's ceremony. Could you please just explain briefly to your supporters in Liberia listening to you why you took those decisions and what is the way forward and coming together to ensure you have a formidable team for 2023?
Thank you. You know, I tried to explain some of that in the statement, but I will do it again, perhaps use different choice of words to help make my position clear. As I mentioned in the statement, we made a decision collectively. At the time, we did it with good intent, with good faith. I was part of that decision. Let me be clear. There's no denial here that I was part of the decision and I supported the decision we made before political leaders. But after reviewing that decision with the leadership of the ANC and our legal team here at the ANC, I was advised and it was confirmed that we did not have the legal authority per the framework agreement to make that decision. And therefore, I immediately sent my colleague, the chair, a text to that effect to let her know. And the spirit of the text and a subsequent letter I sent was to say we collectively made a mistake. We collectively did not have, so I didn't say I or they, we did it. And we have a chance to collectively course correct. No decision has been made on whether that will happen or not. We went to the meeting as you suggest. We requested an agenda. There was no agenda, but again, in the spirit of collegiality, these are my colleagues, they're still my colleagues. We went to the meeting. And we started the meeting with some of the very topics we objected to. And without knowing what was coming next, because there was no agenda, I didn't feel my presence would be contributing in any way. And I would be endorsing and supporting a process that was inconsistent with the framework agreement. And I thought it made sense to symbolically walk away, to send a message that we are serious about following the framework agreement, and to hopefully jolt all of us, my colleagues and I, to make sure we are following the process appropriately. The way forward is we will continue to dialogue. I'm sure we'll find a way to sort of thread this needle, if you will, to make sure we're following the framework agreement. I don't question the intent of my colleagues, and I know we're going to push and pull. And by the way, this may or may not be the only challenge we have, right? Because as I mentioned, change is difficult. And there will be times they will disagree with me too, as they should. right? But this is what it would take to move Liberia forward. So again, we're committed to working together to consolidate the CPP so we can make President Weah a one-term president.
So how was the decision?
Let's go. Strong FM.
What was the decision?
What decision?
Strong FM, please.
What? I don't understand the question.
Good afternoon.
What was the decision that the people made and was wrong?
I think I mentioned it in the statement, the decision to extend the term of the current chair of the CPP and to appoint the ad hoc committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Sekou Aminata Kwame. I report for Strong FM and Strong TV. You said in your press statement it is necessary at times to stand alone. Looking at the current crisis within the CPP, if this crisis is not resolved up to 2023, will you stand alone or you will remain in the collaboration? Thank you.
You know, I wouldn't describe it as a crisis. Some may do so, and I believe we will work through these issues. I really do. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm committed. The ANC is committed to remaining in the CPP. We believe it is the best vehicle to change our country, and so I don't contemplate standing alone from the CPP. That is not in my contemplation at all. Let me make that clear. We'll stand alone against various decisions within the CPP. We'll argue, we debate, right? But it's not about walking away. My legislative colleagues here sometimes disagree with the colleagues in the legislature. Some of that becomes public, but they don't walk away from the legislature. And we don't plan to walk away. The ANC will not leave the CPP. And we'll have our debates, we will have our differences, but we will stay in the CPP because, again, I believe it's the best vehicle to replace President Weah.
Okay, my name is Angel Malema Morris, and I report for Strong FM 98 Degree. I am concerned about two things. Firstly, let's talk about Ambassador Joseph Newman Boyka's continuous statement. So, Mr. Boyka has emphatically said numerous times that he's the only one within the CPP who is capable enough of making President Weah a one-term president. Taking into consideration that you all are in a collaboration, what can you say about this? And secondly, you mentioned that change sometimes requires that you stand alone. Do we expect you to leave the CPP anytime soon, now that the CPP is boycotting laws? And, you know, if no, don't you think this is a contradiction to yourself, wherein you're saying that there is a difference between standing for change and standing for chance? So,
Angel, thanks for your question. And I mentioned Angel by name because so far she's the only woman reporter who's asked the question. So on your second question, Angel, I think I answered it earlier when I said we are committed to the CPP. We stand alone on particular issues. We don't stand alone from the CPP. So within the CPP, we're going to have challenges. We're going to have differences. We'll argue and debate. I use the example, legislature debates among themselves. I hope in the cabinet, the cabinet debates with the president. I hope so. But it doesn't mean you are away from the government. And so we're not leaving the CPP. We're committed to the CPP. But we'll have differences from time to time. Hopefully they don't all become public. But we'll have differences, but committed to the CPP. With regards to Ambassador Boyka's assertion, you know, of course I disagree with that. What I do believe is that whoever is the CPP candidate will win President Weah. And if Ambassador Boyka is successful, I believe he will win President Weah. If I'm successful, which I hope to be, and I'm going to do the work to be the successful candidate, I believe I will win President Weah. So look, let me give you some facts, some empirical facts that will help you and the Liberian people understand why I believe this is true. If you look at the December election, the by-election, in every county where the CPP stood together at every level, at the county level, at the national level, and all the way up, the CPP won. So in Monserrado, at the district level, at the county level, at the national level, our candidate won because we were all one. The same was true in River G. The same was true in Rambassa. The same was true in Cape Mount. The same was true in River G. The list goes wherever we stood together at every level in the political hierarchy. District, county, national, our candidates won. Fact. So Liberian people should understand that this is why it's important that we all stick together despite our differences. That whoever emerges as the leader of the CPP will be the next president of the United States, next president of the Republic of Liberia.
Thank you, Lieutenant Debo, and that will be the last question, please. The room is hot. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Okay, we'll take two more. We'll take the email. Okay.
My first concern is, where do you stand on the issue of constituent party voting as law? 2, there's an allegation from Mr. Ure that during the tenure presiding over the CPP, you reportedly authored the framework, and that the 5 original copies that were signed up to present, no political party has a copy. And the copy that was forwarded to NEC is a carbon copy. We mind to provide some clarification.
Right. So let me answer the last question first. Look, Mr. Ure made a very, very sort of broad allegation with no specifics. The Liberian people should know there was no alteration of the framework agreement. This is how the process unfolded. We, meaning the 4 political parties, met many meetings over months and months and months and agreed the framework agreement. We also collectively agreed that we will let our lawyers, our legal advisors, make changes as they deem appropriate to the framework agreement. Our lawyers did that. We had a meeting where we were all present, a meeting of the National Advisory Council of the CPP, where we were all present at the Liberty Party headquarters. And the lawyers took us through line by line their proposed changes, they reordered the agreements, etc. That was the agreement that was filed with the NEC. The National Elections Commission does not accept copies. They accept originals that are notarized. And we file a notarized original copy of the framework agreement with the National Elections Commission. That is just a fact. And if you know the NEC rules, the NEC will not accept copies. So those are the facts. And to the extent Mr. Ure has details or specifically where he's alleged that it was changed, he needs to tell us. He needs to tell the Liberian people. You cannot just make blanket accusation, blanket allegation with all the details and all the facts. And that's what we're waiting from Mr. Ure. What was your additional question? On black voting. Black voting is, it doesn't make sense. It's unconstitutional. You know, some of you are too young to remember, and I was a young man then too, but I was old enough to remember, to understand the old True Party, where it was the all so say one, so say all. I don't know if people remember that saying, right? So say one, so say all. We're not going back to that. We're not going back to the future, I'm sorry. The CPP framework agreement, there was a reason why we said we were going to have 310 delegates each that will go to a convention. We didn't say we'll get 310 delegates and then only one person will go on behalf of all 310. We didn't say we were going to do voter perception survey, something the ANC pushed, VPS or polling, to just influence 4 people. It was to provide some information to the delegates so they could make the individual decisions on who they feel should lead the CPP. The question is this a sign of weakness? Is this a sign of vulnerability? Is this a sign that those who are advocating this don't trust that the delegates will support and vote for them? This is what I think you reporters should be asking. Why is this being advocated now? Why wasn't it advocated when working on the framework agreement? Why do we go through all the process of agreeing to number of delegates, agreeing to go to a convention, agreeing to do VPS, if we're only going to give it to one person? So, you know, the social one, social all concept, that's in our past. And let's not ever want to go back there. We have a young democracy. It is not perfect, but we are making progress, small. We are making progress. So it's important that we keep on our forward journey and not take us back to where we were, where lives were lost to get us to where we are today, with a lot more work to do. So Moba will take one more question maybe.
Okay, so Maka Terrace.
Thank you. Mr. Cummings, my question is short. What process will you prefer for What process will you prefer for the candidate selection for the CPP?
The process that is outlined in the framework agreement. So the process has again 2 stages, or maybe you call it 3, I guess. One is the consensus process. The final stage is the convention or primary, as some people call it. And in between, we do this voter perception survey, this polling, asking questions like, you know, who do you think is best on the economy? Who is best on national security? Who is best in creating jobs? We want to get in a very people's sense, right? For kind of who they think is best on what, and we kind of add it together so you can inform the delegates. Again, it's not binding, it can inform. And then the delegates go and select. And this is the process we all agree to. And this is the process we need to follow. So we again are committed to the CPP and committed to that process. But a few final words though. Again, I want to say to Liberians that I am personally and ANC collectively didn't sign or commit to the CPP lightly. We had vigorous debates as we do in the ANC, both in person, in live meetings, and in our chat rooms. Vigorous debates about whether we should join or not. And in the end, we collectively agreed, made a decision. It's in the minutes of our executive committee to join the CPP. We did not take that decision lightly, and we're still committed to winning the CPP. But at the same time, as I said, and I will say, we will have differences, and will not be shy to make sure those differences, and we push those differences, and we try to reconcile. This is about changing Liberia. This is not doing more of the same. I keep saying, all of you Liberians know my favorite saying, we cannot keep doing the same thing and expect different results. We cannot keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And if I keep repeating that saying, I gotta be prepared to live up to that matter. The choice in front of us is clear. In 2023, this is about the future of all of you, because almost all of you here are much younger than I am. The young people of Liberia, this is about your future. This is about growing the economy, about creating jobs, and providing educational opportunities to Liberians. This is a shift. Yes, we have all of these differences and wranglings, but let's not forget what is ahead of us. Let's not forget that we're giving this government a free ride because we are wrangling among ourselves instead of calling out the ills and the things they're doing that is not helping our country and our people. So the choice is clear. It's about more the same or real change. We can vote for the past, we can vote for the present, or we can vote for a different future. And this is what is at stake. So we thank you, we thank those listening to my voice, and again, God bless everyone and God bless everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, folks, that is how we come to the end of this news conference. So till we meet again, my name is James Samuel, and this is how I love to say goodbye.